This is Marcus Whitney's audio universe.
Like, you got to do the work. You got to show up and just do the work.
What's good? What's good? Happy Monday. Hope y'all had a great weekend. Another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. And I'm feeling good because last night, the home team, Nashville SC, we got our first Major League Soccer home win, which was dope. And it was actually a really, really fun game. You know, we played against Inter Miami, and we're both expansion teams entering the league for the first time in this crazy year of the pandemic, and it was just fun. It was fun to get in there and scrap with those guys, for it to be the first home game and just sort of experience everything. Incredible goal by Godoy, and then it got a little hairy because we gave up a penalty, and then it was scrambling, but it was a really fun match, fun night. And sometimes timing just works really well. I had booked our guest for today a couple weeks back, not really tracking the schedule because I don't even, quite frankly, think we knew when games were going to be played when I booked him. And not only did we have a game last night, but we won. So it feels like there's no better way to celebrate than to have a conversation today with the beat writer for the Tennessean for Nashville SC, the first ever beat writer we've ever had, my man Drake Hills. Drake, what's good, brother?
Marcus, it's been too long and maybe a little bit overdue for the both of us. Because I think you've been curious about me. I've been curious about you. You've had this story that I think a lot of the greater Major League Soccer family, whether it be from outside the market or even here in Nashville, your story has been incredible. So I'm just honored to be on the show, and I'm sure you want to know a little bit about me as well. So that's why we're here.
I do, man. I do want to know more about you. And, I think one of the first things I want to know is, so let me just start with this. I had no real background in sports business prior to getting involved with Nashville Soccer Club. So thank you, Chris Jones, for including me in this process. And since then, I've been exposed to this incredible world. And the one thing I can say is, it's just been first after first after first. And so when you came on the scene to be, the beat writer, and I just realized, oh my God, we're going to have somebody who, they're not they're normally covering the Titans, but every once in a while they're writing about us. No, they are dedicated to our club, right? To writing about our club and really capturing this story.
Right.
It was super exciting. And then, quite frankly, when I saw you, I was like, yo, it's a brother, man. And I'm like,
put it in the air.
Exactly, man. And
put it in the air.
And I get to not only watch you talk about Nashville Soccer Club, but also watch you talk about JR Electronica finally dropping albums. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just incredible forward progress that the city of Nashville is making. And I want to know, how did you land in this kind of position? What was your path to becoming the beat writer for Nashville SC? How did that happen?
I'll start with the present, because I think obviously that gets people to understand what the reality is right now, because I am one of only five. There's only five of us. So
hold on. When you say there's only five, be explicit. What do you mean when you say there's only
five of us, Black professional journalists covering Major League Soccer or soccer in America for a newspaper or for a daily publication? There's myself, there's Kobe Price, the Florida Sun Sentinel, there's Jada Evans in Seattle, my guy JJ Adams, who's in Vancouver. And so there's only a specific, set of us.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate because we see that the spice, the creativity, and also the different interests that come along with each individual, because we all create something that's original in our own right. And whether that be JJ, who loves the numbers of soccer. He loves talking about that, but he also loves being able to explain what that does for the youth, what it does for grassroots, what it does for grassroots soccer in that community of Vancouver and just British Columbia in general. Myself, I personally, and I'm glad that I was able to help produce such a narrative, was during the unfortunate events with police killing George Floyd in Minneapolis, but seeing and being able to connect with MLS veterans that have been along for the ride as Black players in this league, telling their story, what it was like long before CNN, Fox, and large publications, large TV networks were covering what was going on to our people. That has always been happening. But to be able to understand how that has affected them since they came into the league and what they're willing to do now, being able to tell that story is unique. And that's something that I want to be known for, not necessarily about the general conventional team news. So being able to talk with someone like Kai Kamara, who's an MLS veteran, Colorado Rapids, but has played through multiple clubs.
Right.
Started with Columbus Crew.
Right.
Now he's with Colorado. Talking to someone like CJ Sapong, being able to talk with Jalil Anibaba, obviously for Nashville.
Yeah.
And getting his experience. All those players, they've been in the league. Kai Kamara's been in for, I think, 14 years.
He is legend, yeah.
CJ Sapong, 2011, Jalil Anibaba, 2011. So you have that narrative that I think has not been told. And then that's the avenue that I want to park myself in, because it's unscratched. And so that's where I am right now. That's the present. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But going to the past, I've always been in that scenario, right? I've always been the only Black player on the team. I've always been the player who, his parents couldn't afford the pay-to-play model of modern day American soccer at the club level. And that's actually what pushed me out of soccer in terms of playing. So,
and when you say it pushed you out, do you mean as you became better and better to continue to increase to that truly competitive level? The pay for play locked you out. Is that what you're saying? I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Absolutely, you're right on the point. Where there was a situation, or I guess a timeline, where from the age of 4, which is when I started playing soccer, I actually started in Augusta, Georgia, so not far from here. So then I had moved to San Diego. And during that time, from the age of 4 all the way until age 8, I really got a chance to fully be exposed to the game.
Okay.
Being able to experience game day, being able to experience practice, being able to experience camaraderie and the teamwork, and what happens when you're playing this sport. Because I do think it has a different experience when you are a player, because you are a part of something that takes absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
With spacing on the field, communication, understanding of your own teammates, and even at that young age, you're starting to think, you're getting to know people a little bit deeper, because you have to learn about how they think, you have to learn about how they act, you have to learn about what they like and they don't like. I was learning all those things from a very young age and from a very competitive standpoint. And so once you move on to, let's say, 12 years old, now I've left the camps and the recreational leagues, and I've gone to club, and I've moved to San Diego. So now I'm playing for all-star leagues in San Diego. I'm playing for clubs and trying out for clubs called PQ Premier, which is now FC San Diego.
Wow.
Those clubs, they cost money.
Yeah.
They cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's not a one-time fee either.
No.
It's a couple thousand, and it's all 12 months.
Yeah.
And my parents have sat me down in 6th grade and said, "Hey, you already play basketball. We already paid. We're paying $75. Here you are wanting to play this game, which you are just as good at, but they want $1,300.
Wow.
Can't do that.
Wow.
Right? And on top of that, you are still a kid just like everybody else. You have to go to school like everybody else. You have to go to sleep like everybody else. And we have to take care of you just like any other parent would take care of their child. And that costs money too.
Yeah.
So I had to make a choice. And so that's what actually took me away from playing. And from the age of 12, I've just been this nerd of understanding the game at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Since then, going through college, I went to the University of Oregon. I did another master's program at Northwestern University, both in journalism. And from 12 all the way until that time, which concluded a couple of years ago, I never was solely immersed in the game as someone who just loved goals and wins and losses. I want to understand, why does that player look like that? Why is this Black player who's from Austria, he's got a comb over?
Yeah.
How these players got curls on their head, but they got tattoos just like players from in the NBA, but they don't speak English. They speak German, or they speak Swahili, or they speak French. Understanding the diaspora from a different lens, because what is the diaspora when you're a kid? What does that mean to you as a Black kid growing up? I mean, for you, what would that mean for you?
No, I was going to say that was the reason why I got back into soccer, was for my boys, because it is inherently global. There's no way to get into soccer, watch it competitively, and not see players from around the world, right? You know what I mean? Right. And to understand that what you come to understand as Black or Hispanic, you know, or any of these like kind of overgeneralized things in America, you know, no, that there's so many nationalities and so many different cultures, you know what I mean, around the world. And when you get into soccer, they're all elevated, right? Because it is a game of country pride at the end of the day, right? You know what I mean? And so now for me, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So I definitely had more of an international exposure from a child than many other people in America. Just it's New York City, right? You know what I mean? Right. And then I lived in a neighborhood, East Flatbush, that actually I was the minority as a Black person because my family's from the South. And in my neighborhood, it was mostly, you know, Caribbean descent, right? You know what I'm saying? So like many of my best friends, Guyana, Trini, Jamaica, you know what I mean?
All of them.
You know, yeah. You know what I mean? And like Utica Avenue was just like, you know, it was just dance halls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so I you know, I would go to barbershops where the cuts were really exotic, you know what I mean? Like dye in the hair and stuff like that. So for me, and also like growing up in New York, when I grew up, the Cosmos were playing, and Pele was, so I have a signed ball from Pele. So like, you know, and I knew Pele was not like an American Black, you know what I mean? Black person. So you're right. Watching soccer is an incredible way to engage a young person about the diaspora. There's no question about it.
And I also think it's a tool of deconstruction for a lot of the I would say the narratives. And the blockades that American education, primary education especially, but even in secondary education, the American school system causes you to only look at what the majority of Americans have placed on Black individuals and Black families and the Black mass in America.
Right.
And particularly in specific neighborhoods, and they'll show you a biased narrative. But soccer, you can watch at the World Cup, you can watch European club, you can watch the Euros, you can watch pretty much any watch the Olympics. You can watch any of those competitions and be able to absolutely destroy all of the preconceived notions, all of the previous information you thought you had everything.
To your point, how much did it break people's brains to watch France win the World Cup and like see what the French team looked like?
And to know what country they are really representing.
Right.
Martinique, or even Senegal or Mali.
How much history is in there?
Exactly. And that's not new either, because I think that 2018, and even going back to 2016, because of the Euros, I mean, because it's practically a lot of the same players. Yeah. That was not new.
Yeah, that's right.
Go to the 98 World Cup.
That's right.
Go to those players. Like, you think Thuram was just France born and bred? You think Thierry Henry is France born and bred? You think Nicolas Anelka is France born and bred?
Right.
Come on. I mean, it just it allows you, if you truly are curious, that information is there for you, and you can, like I said, it completely deconstructs anything that you knew about Black people, not even just in the realm of sport, but just in society.
Yeah, I agree. But and well, it deconstructs, but it also leads you to a whole nother set of questions.
Oh, it adds on to as well.
Yeah, because it doesn't answer them on the surface, right?
Oh, certainly not. So I think it deconstructs the doubts and really the confinement to what Black people are. Yeah. And who Black people are.
Yeah, right.
But then, as to your point, the questions, okay, then what are Black people? Who is Black people?
Right.
You know, those questions. And then that's when you start to be able to pile on the fruitful information. Yeah. And that just leads you into a new, so now, like for me, I'm very curious to understand the true root of black players in France, the true root of black players in Germany.
Yeah.
Because I think we see in England and in France, it's very well. I mean, you talk about the Windrush generation in the UK, you can talk about France and their colonial status, but like Germany is, to me, at least in the past 5 years, has been a fascination because you don't necessarily get to understand how that came about. And I think someone like Jerome Boateng, obviously he had a father who, and Kevin Prince as well, he had a father who played in Europe in the 80s, who played for some of the top clubs in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Though he married a German woman, I think it was interesting to see how, maybe some other players who aren't coming from professional, fatherhood, where they don't have a father who played professionally or just had a soccer experience, yet their family moved to Germany, their family moved to Austria.
Well,
like David Alaba, who's a perfect example, who, his father's Nigerian, his mother's Filipino, but he is Austrian born and bred, yet he is black and he is very unapologetically black.
right.
And he exudes black culture.
Right.
And one of the most, I want to say, I don't want to say marginalized, but I will say that Bayern Munich doesn't exude, black culture like a Paris Saint-Germain or
right.
that's
right.
Manchester United or
right.
Arsenal or what have you.
That's right. That's right. So let's actually talk about what's happening in Major League Soccer today. Mm-hmm. I have to say, just from my perspective, these are my words. There's no what I'm about to say is no association with Nashville Soccer Club or anything like that. I have to say, man, I have been positively impressed by the league's support of the black players, in MLS, sort of without, like, I haven't seen any buts there. You know what I mean? It's like, basically, when the Black Players Coalition, formed, it felt like the league understood this was important. You know what I mean? And really just kind of went with it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of went with it. Now, yes, we have to have, one of the things we have to understand is, like, MLS is not the same as NBA. It's not the same as, like, NFL. No. They're not apples to apples in terms of the, the strength of the broadcast deals and a million other things, right? So you have to kind of look at each one, not so much in isolation, but more like for what it is. You know what I mean? You have to look at each one for what it is. And I would say in a league where you do have more international players, you know what I'm saying, and where the fan base is more millennial, to me, just watching the league's response to everything that's happening right now, especially in a time where the NFL hasn't showed us what they're going to do yet, you know what I mean, has been, it's been positive, man, for me personally, just as an individual. Sure. Like I have felt good about being associated with Major League Soccer. You know what I'm saying? So I'm interested. You're a journalist, and there is an aspect of journalism that is to be, a critic. And I'm interested in how has it hit you?
I think the first impression was great.
Yep.
I think we are along the same line here when it comes to not only the introduction and the support, but to lift up.
Yeah, right.
Black Players for Change,
right,
of MLS,
right.
Particularly the individual players, which many of them, as I said prior, have put in a decade plus.
And let's just be clear: these players have also played in other leagues, and we know globally, you know what I mean? Like, there are big, like, racism is not limited to America.
No.
You know what I mean?
At least for the conversation, the topic here, it's important to introduce that these players have been a part of MLS and know what MLS is and what life is like in Major League Soccer as a player.
Yes.
In Major League Soccer.
Yes.
And so it brings something a little bit more personal for the league.
Yeah.
Because we are all the same. We were all a part of the league that has evolved really since 2014, 2015,
Yep.
and producing something that is something for each city and for each market and for each town to really to have something to support and
Yep.
to be prideful about.
Yep.
But in that process, much of those black players, when the job is done, they're still black.
They're black. Yeah, I mean, that's the world. That's the world,
And
right? That's the world.
Black. And just like, I guess, and yes, they're not comparable to the NBA. They're not comparable
They're not.
to the NFL.
They're not.
But what they can be compared to is when their job is done on the field, when they're in the car,
Yep.
when they're in the mall, when they're in
Yes.
the grocery store,
Yes. Yes.
when they're online, social media, they're black.
Totally.
Black.
Totally. Totally.
And so
and not just that, actually probably less recognizable. So even more black.
That's the thing, right? Is because you're not having players who are, 5 million followers
Right.
on Twitter.
Right.
Salary is, 50 million
Right.
over 4 years and
Right.
all of that stuff. And all that stuff is vanity.
Yeah.
And
But
it still creates a sensational value to the surrounding whatever city that they live in.
no question.
And a little bit of prowess that maybe they would have if they were an NBA player, if they were an NFL player.
Yeah.
So to your point, yes, but what I'm trying to say is that MLS knows that, okay, this is us.
Yes.
What they're saying
Yes.
is us.
Yes. Yes.
And what they see is what is true. And so if they're saying that this is the issue,
Right.
not only as a black man in America, but a black player, a black individual
Right.
within Major League Soccer's realm,
Right.
then it's only right to support that. And I think they did a great job in that. Now, as you say, as a critic,
Yes.
when talking to players,
Yes.
the first step was done
Right.
in Major League Soccer, elevating and lifting up
Yep.
the Black Players for Change of MLS.
Yep.
You have widely intelligent players coming from different backgrounds, from different age groups. Justin Morrow is their executive director. He's been a player in MLS for quite some time. You've got other players, young players, Jeremy Ibobise of Portland, Mark McKenzie, Philadelphia Union. You've got players, and Mark McKenzie is in New York. He's Brooklyn, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have players from lots of different experiences.
Yep.
But there's one narrative, is that after that, they are still looking for the support to take them to the next level.
When you say the next level, do you mean within the league?
Monetarily, commercially,
Yeah.
Socially,
Yeah.
because, and this is on the record, this is what I was told by one of their board members, Earl Edwards Jr. And he says, look, we genuinely appreciate the support that MLS had shown when
Yep.
we launched, as well as the MLS Players Association.
Yep.
But we would like to move on from the empty social media posts of we support Black players, we support Black Lives Matter, we want to uplift them. It's time to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. I understand.
And for campaigns, for actual projects that the Black Players for Change would like to introduce now, right now, not we'll look at 2021 and 2022. They want to do stuff now. And I think individually they have partnered with the Players Coalition of NFL players.
Mm-hmm.
They have done some things already in collaboration with the Players Coalition and with MLS as well when it comes to some of the marketing, and individual players have done stuff in their individual markets.
Yep.
But when it comes to the organization that is the Black Players of Change, they need more. And I agree with them that they need more and they deserve more. If MLS really wants to be a part of
can you state probably maybe the one really big project that of the four, can you just like share
that for the Black Players for Change?
Yeah.
So based off of the conversations that were had when they were initially announced, they wanted to create a network-wide grassroots program.
Okay.
For Black youth in each MLS market.
Okay.
So that's what Justin Morrow said, that they're looking at doing things within each community.
Got it. Yep.
And it's not necessarily tied to soccer, albeit soccer will play a part.
It has to.
In creating connections
Yep.
in these, whether they're urban or country,
Yep.
or suburban communities that are often inhabited by Black youth, because they want to empower them. They want to create something that these Black players didn't have, because the fact of the matter is these Black players who were just like any other player in MLS, at least the American ones anyway, going through the youth system, playing for a lot of these big time clubs, having to travel, do a lot of these things, but they're one of the very few Black players.
Yep. Yep.
They're going through a U.S. residency, which is now kind of going in a different direction. But the U.S. residency, it was a big part of a lot of these players' generation's experience as a youth player. And I've never seen more than a couple of Black players on a team before, for whether representing their country at the youth level or big time academies or even college programs, which a lot of these players are coming from. Giuliani Baba representing North Carolina as a big time program. And so that is what they want. They want to show Black youth now something that they didn't have as kids, as these players had, back then.
Yep.
So that's something that they talked about.
Yep.
But there really hasn't been any step forward in that making, that becoming tangible. So a lot of that is really theory. It's just conversation right now.
Yeah.
So that's the current status of what the Black players of change are doing with MLS right now.
Well, just as someone who executes on big things, that's a big thing, and my hope there is that the conversations that are having now will lead the way for that to actually happen. I'm pretty. As someone who's not involved in it,
surely not pessimistic.
Yeah, as someone who's not involved in it, that seems like such an idea that's time has come, and that I can't imagine there wouldn't be tremendous willingness to accomplish. But it does take time in the middle of trying to figure out like how you're playing when you can't have fans and a bunch of other things like that. But I mean I do think this is one of those ideas that that mirrors many of the things that I've seen even at the club level be discussed. You know what I mean? In terms of the very first, outdoor pitch that we did being done at the Magruder Center, I mean, obviously that was strategic. That was about putting a presence of the club and putting a pitch in a Black neighborhood, specifically to start the process of exposing soccer to that community that doesn't really, like Black communities all over the country, primarily are focused on football, basketball. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, really. Yeah, exactly. So you have to. I feel like we both played soccer growing up, so I think like we'll understand this. We got put in soccer largely because of our parents. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily because it's what our community was doing, right? You know what I mean?
I do not remember telling my parents, "Hey, you see that polka dotted ball over there? Like, I want to try that."
Right.
I just remember
you out there.
4 years old. Oh, I'm in a soccer jersey. Look at me.
Exactly.
So that's true. That's true. Also, I want to say that when it comes to grassroots growth of the game, and doing so not just by training and teaching kids how to play soccer.
Yep.
It's not really what it's about. That's not the primary goal in my opinion.
No.
The thing is to empower Black youth so that they can receive opportunity.
Yes.
As an adult, and even before that, even when they're in high school, getting experience in the job market, wanting to learn what they want to do in life, having, whether it be a financial plan, a business plan, traveling, getting yourself exposed to different cultures, learning about people, understanding society, a lot of different things that I think soccer does, because the fact of the matter is this game, because it's global, as we started with, has opportunities in multiple fields that I think the NFL is still trying to get going on. The NBA is still trying to get going on, because I think sports science is well developed in the world. I think in the sociological lens, I think that soccer has the academics that study sport in a world, they're studying soccer.
Yeah, no question.
Like
Look,
that's the precedent anyway. And there's business, there's people, there's engineering, all the technology, everything, the opportunity and the different fields that soccer lives in is more than any other sport.
and there's ownership. It's like the only thing I actually care about. Not the ownership, but being able to be a face that they can look at and say, oh, that's an option too. Right? You know what I'm saying? Don't leave that one out. Don't leave that one out, because that's in there too. You know what I mean? That's in there too. But I mean, I completely agree. It was the reason why I wanted my children to be in it, because I wanted them to get the benefit of seeing the world through a sport, right? And unfortunately, most American sports only let you see America. It's just the reality. It's just the reality. You know what I'm saying? They only let you see America. Whereas soccer, even when you're watching Major League Soccer, you look at the names of the players, and Randall Leal's from Costa Rica. Well, both my boys have been to Costa Rica. They have friends in Costa Rica. They play, football with kids in Costa Rica. They know those kids are better than them. So it's like if they see Leal, they're like, oh, he's Costa Rican. It's like, it's the connection that there's a big world out there. At the end of the day, there's a big world out there.
Interest, it exposes you to different ideas and the thinking, the way you think of life, the way you think of people, but also the way you think of sport. I mentioned academia, the way people see sport in this world, the way people see soccer in this world is different than the way Americans see sport, and the way the Americans see soccer. America sees sport, and very much in soccer, they see it as a leisure activity. They see it as a luxury that is on the weekends, Saturday mornings with the kids.
Disconnect from the work world.
Immerse
yourself in the sports world, right?
It's a hindrance to what soccer really could be. I'm not uplifting. I'm not trying to push the professionalism of sport. I'm not trying to professionalize youth sport.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is your son or daughter can be put into this game, be exposed to things that he or she may not be exposed to in grassroots basketball and grassroots flag football or tackle football or other sports, especially baseball, because of its nationalistic tie to the red, white, and blue. And that's the problem, is like everything has to be so red, white, and blue, so patriotic. It really makes me sick sometimes, because everything doesn't have to be about that. Yes, you represent, if we're talking about players, you're playing, you represent your country. Okay, cool. Have at it. Salute you. But opportunity, if we're talking about opportunity and we're talking about learning, we're talking about education, those things are never going to be tied to national borders. They're always going to be tied to people. They're going to be tied to life, and they're going to be tied to liberation. You're liberating yourself from any confines that you were given when you were a kid in a classroom or even in your own household. Because you're seeing people that don't look like you or look like you, but don't speak the language you do, don't look the way you do, or maybe they don't see life the way you do, and maybe they don't live like you, but you may be able to relate to them because of your race. You may be able to relate to them because of where you live. You may be able to relate to them because of the things that they love. They love hip hop, they love rap, they love Nike tracksuits, they love fashion, they love everything. They love, if you're big on, stadiums and being able to go see the different architecture and the different stories that each ground tells based off of where it is. And that's also, when I went to London last year, my biggest thing was looking at the neighborhoods centered around grounds. And everyone knows about Fulham, man. Everyone knows about Fulham, and they're the American club, the mom and pop, daughter and son. Everything's all good, white picket fence club, Fulham. And just looking at the neighborhood and having that reflect that, going to Millwall was interesting, man. Because just the experience, real quick, the story is, so you get off the tube, and there's like this.
Oh, I've been, but go ahead. Yeah,
You've been to Millwall.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of the different, clubs.
Okay,
yeah.
so just the experience of like walking in, kind of like on the backside of this neighborhood, and you're seeing the ground in the background, and you're seeing like these old apartment-looking, flats.
Yeah.
And they just tell really what East London is and what those specific neighborhoods around Millwall, what they really are.
Yeah.
Not so much with some of the bigger clubs, but at least going to some of those mid-major, smaller clubs, that tells you a lot about people. They teach you about people.
Dude, I mean, so look, I support Tottenham, and High Road is like Utica Avenue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just all the dreads and the Jamaican restaurants and like
the chicken shop across the street now.
Yes, yeah. Brown Eagle, you know what I'm saying? Right?
Man.
Right?
I mean, maybe I should have been more prepared and like find a way to like upload maybe a stream or quick video from my phone to show you.
We're doing another episode. We're already like past the half hour, and we haven't even like gotten into your journalism. So like we're doing another episode, no question.
Right. And just not to tell the story because I know we're going to keep advancing here, but just the way I panned and seeing the lights, and now that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium has the largest team store in all of Europe because of its collaboration with the NFL, and to see that and see the Hotspur,
the cockerel
light just illuminating throughout this dark sky in London, and then all of a sudden you pan ends. Absolute hood there. Like I
love it.
I could hopscotch across the street and go to knock on somebody's door, and it's a completely different lifestyle than across the street. And you're in a stadium that's brand new that can host NFL games, concerts, Tottenham Hotspur, everything. This state-of-the-art facility in the midst of chicken shops and slums. that tells a story.
Yes.
That's why I'm a journalist.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to go as a journalist, not to diminish the importance of news and to talk about what players are doing on the day-to-day, how teams are progressing like Nashville SC. But that's not my end goal. And I'm not afraid to say that because I have to be you have to be true to who you are, and I have to be true to who I am and why we do what we do.
Yes.
And so that's why I do what I do, to eventually get to that point where I can tell that story about, I'm sitting here interviewing a guy who lives across the street. We're sitting at a chicken shop doing an interview about Tottenham Hotspur.
Right.
That's the life for me, because it tells the truth about real people and not just about something that just popped onto the scene and, you're throwing some money at it and voila, it's going to grow like a seed in the ground. That's not what soccer is. Soccer is too old to have that happen. It needs to be organic. And I think, you mentioned grassroots here in Nashville. Kicking It 615, that's one thing I would like to see. Kicking It 615 is really taking a look at, I'm sure you've heard of it, taking a look at neighborhoods in North Nashville, South Nashville, East Nashville, taking a look at those neighborhoods that have a lot of Black players, that have a lot of Black youth and other youth that are non-white, and exposing them to the game, but also exposing them to family and camaraderie and teaching them life lessons. That's what it's all about. So I hope groups like Kicking It 615 here in Nashville, they keep doing that.
They're going to be successful.
Right.
They're going to be successful. We're not going to let them fail. Okay, listen, I got to let you go. We're gonna do another episode. We might make this like a rolling thing, because there's like so much to cover, and I actually really enjoyed this because you're a journalist, so like you kind of took control of the show a little bit, which was cool. But
man, I mean to take your shine, Marcus.
No, bro, look, I'm here every day, man. You can have all the shine. You can have all my shine. It's all all for you, man. But seriously, this was a pleasure for me to get to know you, and I just want to say, like, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm really happy that you're here in our city covering the beautiful game for the boys and gold. So thank you for doing that. And just keep being you, man. You know what I mean? Keep being an unapologetic, kid who grew up loving soccer but couldn't play it because it cost too much. You know what I mean? And keep telling these stories, because we need, this is what we need. Through storytelling, we're going to better understand each other. You know what I mean?
And again, it connects us people, because that's what it
right.
comes down to. The game at its truest form and its purest form is going to empower people and connect them like it couldn't do otherwise. So I definitely look forward to that, not only within the Black soccer landscape here in America and the African diaspora when it comes
globally
to soccer, but also in this immediate community at Nashville, because I think there's a lot of untapped potential when it comes to just that.
That's right.
And so I'm excited about that. And hopefully next time I come on here, we'll have some updates and we'll continue this.
Yes.
It is a narrative.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you caught me up on it, man. So everybody out there, follow Drake at Live Life Drake on Twitter. Plugged In, a Nashville soccer podcast, is what I use to kind of really stay up on all the shifts that are happening with the club. So if you care about Nashville SC, I don't see how you are not already following this dude. The book, Create and Orchestrate, is in stores now. If you haven't picked it up, go ahead and grab it. This is the podcast, Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe. You can subscribe everywhere that you listen to podcasts, and you can follow me online everywhere at Marcus Whitney. That is it. Great Monday. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. Until then, let's build a new normal, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe.